All right, ladies and gentlemen, I've waited long enough to talk about this system on March 14th and March 15th. But the time is now to talk about it because we have an idea of what's going to happen. The time is 4:16 p.m. and it is March 12th. Welcome to another update for Great Lakes Weather. You have probably heard about this system already, given the fact that it has been advertised across pretty much all of social media and across much of the news media as well. But we're going to break down some of the details with the system, why it's doing exactly what it's doing, and what we're watching in terms of the overall intensity of storms and nature of the storms. So we're going to dive right in. This is the Day 3 outlook and enhanced risk for severe thunderstorms for March 14th, Friday, March 14th, particularly in the afternoon and evening hours. March 14th last year was the day it intercepted that Lakeview, Ohio tornado that was an F3. So I'm hoping we don't see stuff similar to that on this day either. But you can see there's an enhanced risk for severe thunderstorms extending from portions of central Illinois down towards Mississippi, Alabama region. And then the Mississippi River Valley is very much into this, and portions of the Ohio River Valley. You notice that Michigan is in the marginal risk on the southwestern portion. Michigan is likely going to miss out on the most robust severe weather. Not to say that you're not going to get severe weather, but I do think your chance is much, much lower and pretty low compared to these places out west and areas to the southwest. It's really the location of the low is really not going to contribute to that, and the timing of the system will not contribute to your severe weather threat as much. But you can see potential for strong severe thunderstorms exists for portions of pretty much a broad region of continental United States as that low will begin to deepen. A 30% hatched region, potential for significant severe weather, possibly a severe weather outbreak that could occur in this region. But we're going to go into the details. Again, one of the key ingredients to storm development is instability, which we will have present. Again, the system setup that we have is similar to, gives a little bit of similarity to July 15th, other than the fact that there is much less instability, okay? It's going to be a QLCS likely across Illinois, similar to what we had July 15th. However, the overall setup with terms of the kinematics and thermodynamics that exists is much different. And we're going to talk about exactly what's different about that. But you can see there's instability present around 1,000 to 1,500 joules of CAPE across the entire state of Illinois. There is a very good chance that I'll be chasing this. If that changes, we'll see what happens. But it's very likely that I'll be chasing across Illinois and following these storms all the way up into Indiana and Michigan by early Saturday morning, probably 2 or 3 a.m. Whew, going to be sleepy. But this is the system that's doing it all, okay? If you can press forward, you can see that as we get into Friday morning, you notice that there is a low pressure system that is kind of out ahead of this also. See, the thing about this low is that there is a system that's moving through portions of the plains right now, and that's actually contributing to some thunderstorm development that is producing some hail. That is going to be a key contributor to our system because that will either choke out much of the moisture that these storms will have to feed off of and across portions of Illinois, or it will not choke that moisture out. And when it does that, that means we will have a better chance of seeing a more robust severe weather event across Illinois. I still think either way you will have severe weather in Illinois. Depending on how robust it is, and depending on how that system interacts with the moisture content, that's going to be a big question. But here's the low pressure system, and again, you can see that the models are in pretty much good agreement. This is an ensemble model, so it shows kind of a conglomeration of what the expectation is. You can see the low location is not really changing too much between the models, and the pressure gradient is not changing too much either. It's going to be between 970 and 980 millibars, which is very low for a mid-latitude cyclone, especially one that will produce severe weather during the spring. You have a lot of warm air advection that's going to come in. Moisture content is going to be a question, and you're going to have a pretty sharp kinematics with this system as it makes its way through. One thing we are watching with this system is the jet stream, because the jet stream is going to be very strong, and those strong wind fields will contribute to the greater potential for severe weather. So as you can see, as we go through Friday, you can see that there is a trough ejection that is likely going to occur associated with this low pressure system or this trough that's making its way through. And then as it does, it's going to get that tilt as it approaches portions of Missouri, Illinois, and Iowa, and right around the time of peak heating and convective development, okay? And by between 5 and 8 p.m., I'd say, 4 to 7 p.m. Central Time, you're going to start to see those storms begin to evolve across Missouri and quickly organize into a QLCS capable of producing significant damaging winds and maybe a few embedded tornadoes with some supercells. So that's what's likely going to occur across portions of Illinois, Iowa, and Missouri. Further south, there is that tornado potential as well. It's likely going to remain more of a tornado threat. Might see some QLCS action make its way through there. But that's going to continue to the north and east, and it's going to kind of carry those storms along with it, still fostering that damaging wind threat as well. And as it continues to go through March 15th, you can see that we're still going to have that decent shear present across portions of Indiana and Ohio, and then you're going to see a resurgence of that jet stream in the upper levels that will create favorable severe weather environment across portions of Mississippi, Alabama, and Tennessee. And that area right there is what's outlined in this day 4 through 8 outlook. You can see there's a broad 30% risk. I think there's a good chance of seeing some tornadoes, possibly some strong tornadoes across that region. Probably a tornado outbreak could even occur down there. I mean, I'm just a little skeptical of the Ohio-Indiana threat, mainly because of timing, and then also and prior convection will have a heavy influence in how those storms unfold out there as well. We'll see how that situation is going to unfold across Ohio and Indiana, because I know I've chased Ohio setups in the past that really haven't verified in March, except for the March 14th one last year. So I'm a little skeptical of it, but I'll just explain why that is in just a minute. But that jet stream going to continue to surge through, bringing severe weather across portions of the eastern continent of the United States. Definitely going to be a robust situation, or a good setup for severe weather across the eastern continent of the United States, as you can tell. The low-level jet's also going to be cranking at multiple points. The low-level jet is what's going to cause those storms to spin at the lower levels and make them capable of producing some tornadoes. So as we go forward, you can see that once that trough ejection starts to hit, we get that low-level jet really starting to crank along the eastern edge of that trough as it approaches into portions of Missouri, Illinois, Iowa. You can see that it's going to continue to follow through and follow those storms. With that low-level jet cranking, we will have the potential of seeing some supercells with this embedded into the QLCS line that could have potential of tornado development. So the big question mark with this, though, you see that the low-level jet's cranking, the upper-level jet's cranking. Very favorable kinematics for the system. Moisture content is going to be an issue in terms of tornado threat, okay? So if this tab will load, you can see that as we get into Friday, the question is how much moisture we're going to have. Right now, the moisture content is looking pretty decent based on the Euro model. Okay, the Euro model is actually showing it close to 60 degrees, which would be favorable for severe weather across portions of Illinois. Now, you can see that the Euro also is downplaying this a little bit. It's actually expecting somewhat of a decent capping inversion to be present. We'll have to see how the models continue to play that out with the capping inversion. But there's very good SRH, very good directional and speed shear. You've got Cape values around 800 by the early afternoon hours. So it's going to be building throughout the evening. But as you can see, once those storms begin to develop, you can see that the moisture content will start to lessen maybe just a little bit. We'll have to see how that plays out, but you can see, boom, there's your sounding from the Euro. Okay, it looks to be a higher base cell right here on this sounding, but you can see the strong directional shear, strong speed shear, Cape values of even getting up to 1800 on the Euro model, which is actually a little bit more impressive than what I saw earlier. And with the big question though here is that moisture content. You see that the moisture is at 57 degrees, temperatures are at 76 degrees, but with the strong kinematics that we have, I really think it could overcome that lack of moisture that will be present, and with that we will start to see the development of some storms. And maybe these storms might have the potential of even seeing, you might even be able to see the funnel, with the low saturation, you could have some high based cells that will be a little bit drier with the precipitation, which will make it easier to see storms. But there is potential for some pretty large hail with these storms too, and potential does exist for a good, decent amount of lightning with these as well. So this is a very interesting spring storm, and the thing we're watching for Saturday is that moisture content really surging up into portions of the Dixie Alley region, and even also potentially into portions of Indiana and Ohio, with the potential for some severe weather. I do think tornado outbreak potential does exist across portions of Dixie Alley, and then getting into southeastern regions of the United States as well. So that's all something to be watching out for. Now, the thing I've been asking questions about for the longest time is the moisture content, and the models are in disagreement, okay? Again, a drier storm can still overcome that dry air if there's strong kinematics, which do exist. So the lack of the higher moisture levels may lessen the overall severe threat in terms of tornado potential, but I still do think damaging wind potential will still exist. Dry air will also have the greater potential of maybe even producing some lightning with it as well. So progressing it, you can see that there's model disagreement here, okay? Some models are pointing to, hey, there's going to be some higher moisture content with these storms, and some are pointing to the fact that, hey, I think the threat is going to be lower, okay? So there's still questions on moisture content. We'll have to see how the short-range models play that out later on. But as we get closer, we're actually going to look at the overall convective nature of these storms as they approach the Midwest. Going forward, you can see that as we get into Friday, 18Z, you're starting to see those isobars get to tighter because you have that trough making its way in, that very strong deepening trough. Progressing forward, you can see that there might be some precipitation developing around 4 p.m. Central Time. And then between 4 p.m. and 17 p.m., watch what happens. You get a nice convective line forming along the east-northeastern fringe of that low, feeding off that instability and those favorable kinematics. And as we get a sounding there, you can see that marginal sphere potential. As we go further to the east of it, you can see that potential. Again, it changed. The models are still asking questions with regards to the capping inversion. You can see that there's a very strong cap that tends to take shape later on in the evening hours. So capping inversion will be something to watch out for. We'll see if, I think some of these storms will pretty easily overwhelm the cap, but you can see that curvature in the hodograph. Very impressive curvature with that as it makes its way through. Very strong directional and speed shear. Moisture content still. Big key question with this system. So there's a lot of variables that are playing out with this system that we're watching out for carefully. But you can see the QLCS that could potentially form will follow across Illinois, pretty much the entire state of Illinois, and then begin to weaken as it approaches Indiana and Ohio. And then we're going to have to watch out for this development as we get into the afternoon in Ohio. I think this range shield could potentially choke out any potential for supercells across portions of central northwest Ohio. Southern Ohio might have to just watch for maybe the potential for a spinning storm or two, but I think that rain shield's really going to hurt you guys as well, because I think the models have really been hinting at a rain shield with this system as it's been continuing through. GFS model kind of following a similar scenario, okay, as you go through. I think the GFS actually plays it a little bit further, a little bit uptrends it a little bit more compared to the Euro. But as you go forward, you can see that the QLCS will develop similar to how it's being depicted by the Euro. Get a sounding out ahead of this. Marginal sphere potential, again, capping inversion going to be a question, and instability as well as moisture content is still a key issue with this setup. And that's all going to come into play on the decision of whether I'm going to chase on Friday. We still have a couple days before the models play this thing out as we would forecast it to be. But again, with the dry air, that's really going to be a question into the overall tornado threat and the overall thunderstorm threat in general. But you can see that the GFS also plays out the QLCS to go across portions of Michigan and Indiana. Big question with this system still playing through. Okay, then there's that potential for thunderstorms across portions of Ohio. Again, will they get choked out by a rain shield? That's in question. I think it could, and I think that's also going to choke out potential for severe weather across portions of Ohio. Not to say that there isn't a chance, because again, the SPC is saying that there will be a chance. I think the chance, though, is much lower than areas further south. The NAM model, again, this is the newest NAM model that's starting to enter in as well. I don't know if it's loaded out far enough for us to look at. It is. Okay, so it's loaded out far enough for us to see. So by the time we get to 0Z, here's what is being depicted by the NAM model. Again, the NAM always likes to play it a little bit slower, but looking at the moisture content, again, it's playing better moisture content, lower temperatures in a way, but better moisture content, still those elevated cells, but they will have strong wind shear present, good CAPE, good SRH, supercell composite of 10 present. So again, the NAM is going to play this a little bit higher up in certain situations than others. So that's just something we're watching out for. And again, the QLCS line will continue across portions of Illinois. Still showing those TOR soundings according to the NAM model. So I will say, if we get higher moisture, tornado potential does go up. If we don't, tornado potential goes down. Damaging wind potential is present, I think, regardless. But the overall threat for tornadoes depends a lot on moisture content as well. So, a lot of stuff thrown at you with this video. And I also think the potential for lightning is pretty robust with this as well, especially if we can get those strong kinematics, lots of motion in the air, a lot of those particulates in the atmosphere hitting each other, causing that static electricity. And with the drier air, static electricity will likely be even more stronger, contributing to an overall lightning threat that could be pretty significant. So that's another thing we're going to want to watch out for when we're out there. But just a good thing to keep in mind. Very interesting spring system about to unfold. going to want to subscribe and stay updated. If I chase, it's going to be starting in Western Illinois, heading back to the east, similar to what I did on March 15th. I'm going to be following these storms and just watching them, kind of staying ahead of them as they continue to evolve and intensify. And if something tends to get really intense, we will be on the ground able to provide assistance where necessary, and then also we'll be able to just provide coverage of this event overall as it unfolds. So make sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching this video. Hopefully it was informative and provided some good information, and we will see you all potentially on Friday.